I thought we were under different attires altogether. I thought season end, year end.
Yeah.
Year end, actually, not season end, because we're going to do another one. I thought we were going to wear,
What?
something that's not an Undertaker light up
Christmas?
sweater. Yeah. I just assumed, but it's my fault. Should never
It's just
assume.
a massive miscommunication.
Yeah, it's just a miscommunication on how we record these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a season end thing like we did last year. Like a holiday special kind of thing.
Yeah. Let's run with it. Yeah,
Okay.
We're good with it.
Sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
welcome to the 2025 wrap up. We're going to talk about what are 5 seasons? 4 seasons of old-fashioned marketing. Yeah. And what we've learned along the way, and we're going to revisit some of our main talking points from the previous years, from this year. And I think that I secretly have been calling this episode, Look How Smart We Are.
Yeah.
In our last episode of our last season, we talk about how marketing is like dating. And we did a top-down, like a David Letterman top 10 kind of thing. So I think we should do the same thing here. These are the top 10 things that this show will always stand on.
Yes.
Is how it's said. So these are the top themes that we consistently talk about. And so I think we start at the bottom.
Let's do it. Let's start from the bottom.
Do you want to go first?
Regardless of how we start, I want to do bullet point number 2.
Oh, okay.
But
go ahead, then you start. You'll do evens, I'll do odds.
Okay, perfect. All right. Wait, are you starting or am I?
You're
Yeah.
top 10.
So we built the show as proof the fundamentals beat hype when the fundamentals are actually executed. That's number 10.
Yeah. What do we mean by that?
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. So a lot of the core concepts of marketing, when technology first came out, everyone jumps on bandwagon strategies and tech. But however, the fundamentals of marketing are always going to be fundamentals. There's always a baseline of understanding of how do you implement strategy, who does it, the people, process, technology. If you completely omit those and put too much emphasis on one or the other, it's not going to work cohesively enough, I guess. It's not going to operate effectively. You're not going to adopt the technology. And I think that's really what it means by that. It's like there's fundamentals of how you go to market with anything that you do, whether it's a service or a product. And that's what you want to stick to the roots of. Technology and everything else just kind of supplements it.
Yeah, and you got to actually do it.
Yeah.
That's the last part of that sentence is like when they're actually executed, a lot of people know what they should do. They just don't fucking do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird game of pass the buck, or like duck, duck, goose. I feel like a lot of the GTM motions nowadays are like the old school game of people are just like duck, 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 you execute, and then just
run away as fast as possible
you can. Yeah,
from the responsibility. Yeah. Okay, mine number 9. The number 9 way. Or the number 9 trait that this show has always stood on is that marketing failure isn't an idea problem, it's a follow-through problem. So it's basically what we just talked about is you can pay a consultant for the best case scenario and best laid plans and great ideas, but it all falls apart if you cannot execute on it or if it's just not fucking practical. And we see that all of the time.
Yeah, I mean, like, if
we are the follow through.
Yeah,
we're the agency you use to like actually make shit happen.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of presentations that we received and strategy decks from, I'm not going to name any names. Let's just say big 4, big 5 agencies out there, and being drafted by, M dashes. I'm not going to say what, but they could have scholars on board. But man, that M dash is a dead giveaway sometimes, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's a great dovetail into your next point.
Yeah, which is trends feel like progress until accountability shows up. Man, this thing knows us, huh? Yeah. So, I mean, I know you have a lot of hot takes on accountability, but what's your take on that bullet point?
I think that is the impetus for like why we started this podcast to begin with, right? We diatribed about ABM in our first season because of this exact thing, which is like ABM has existed forever. Like if you talk to an old school sales rep who went door to door in an office building, floor to floor, door to door in an office building, and talked to secretaries in order to get to the idea of who the decision maker was going to be to, you know, buy that copier or whatever the fuck you were selling back in the day. Like this account-based marketing is not new. Trying to operationalize it in the way that we do in B2B in the age of SaaS is the only thing that's new. Everything that's old is new again, all the way back to like now with AI. One of the things that we talked about was the increasing adoption of people going back to on-prem, right? Like when we first started, it was like, oh my God, why would you want to do anything on-prem? You want to use the cloud and blah, 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 blah. Now there's all of these concerns about security and where your data is actually going and all of that stuff with AI that now is like, we got to get back on-prem. Yeah. So everything that's old is new again. And so I think, again, it just boils down to like, you have to get shit done. You have to move the ball forward in an actual way that eventually hits the market. So that's one of my big takeaways that we haven't gotten to yet. But like, it doesn't matter how much you plan on something. If it's not getting into market and getting in front of your actual fucking buyers that give you money to be in business, like you're spending too much time worrying about shit and arguing about shit that like fundamentally your buyer might not even fucking like. So what are you doing?
Yeah. And that actually is really good bullet point, or connect to the next bullet point, is all the crazy shit that CEOs want to do. The number one question that we always ask, and you always ask me just in general, is who is the target for what you're wanting to do? And if we look at the bullet point, or the next bullet point in this, is that demand and all of these things that you're talking about is built when marketing owns the 4 Ps, which I know is something that you're very adamant about, and you should be, because to your point, if you don't know who you're marketing to, your price, your product, and how you promote it is completely irrelevant, right? Like you have to, like marketing has to know who is a product for, what they're going to pay for it, how do we place it, and how do we promote it? Like those are all components that marketing has to own. And when you don't own those, there's a gap. And when we talk about all of these kind of bullet points, that's where accountability is a problem. Follow through becomes an issue. You know, people get away from fundamentals because now you're so focused on beating the, let's just assume you're trying to beat the price. So maybe it's not a price problem. Maybe it's who you're targeting. Maybe it's the product. Maybe it's where you're promoting it. So one of the questions we always ask, like, who is this designed for? Who are we talking to? Who is the person that we're trying to get to? And I think that goes into, demand is built when marketing owns those.
Yeah. I mean, you speak my language, of course. And since you stole mine, I'm going to steal your next
let's
one.
Do it. Was that yours? Was that yours?
Yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The 4 Ps never actually. Yeah, that was mine. Yeah. No worries. The 4 Ps never stop working. Never stopped working. So there's a lot of talk about like, oh, actually it should be 7 Ps and there's a new P. Like, I don't care. I think these 4 Ps are so fundamental to the idea of putting your product in market so that people can buy it, which is just all we're trying to do in marketing, right? Like, I personally believe that marketing is sales in mass. Like, marketing is a mass communication channel and discipline. So we don't work one-on-one. That's what sales is for. But we all use the same fundamental shit. We all should have a pricing strategy. We all should have a discounting strategy. We all should be on the same page about what it is that we're doing with the fundamental 4 Ps. And I think that what I tend to see is when people want to argue about, oh, well, actually, it doesn't make any sense for marketing to own product when it's a SaaS organization. Like, why not? That's like saying it doesn't make sense for a CEO to run the whole company if it's like an HR company. What do they know about HR? Like, you know what I mean? Like, It's the same exact thing. Like, marketers should be, if you're going to market a product, and this is also part of it too, right? Like, John Miller is someone who didn't understand anything about marketing when he started building a product called Marketo. Nobody was like, John, you can't possibly learn this. this is insane. Like, you can't learn marketing in order to build a product that helps marketers. Like, it's the same thing for marketing. Like, you need to be able to get into the minds and hearts and motivations of your buyer, no matter who you're selling into. And if you can't do that as a marketer, might I suggest you shouldn't be marketing that product?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of functions just in general that, you know, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's like, I think the two main functions that make any company successful is the sales team and how you market it, right? And you can have the best product in the world. If people don't know about it, there's not at the right price point, what are you going to do? And who is the closest to knowing all of that information? Has to be the marketing team.
It should be. Yeah. I mean, I do think marketing has a problem where lots of marketers like to be behind their computer and not out in front of customers, talking to them, asking them questions. That also is a common gripe with marketing, which I think is we've earned that, frankly, and it needs to shift. That's not one of the things that's on the list, but like, I will stand on that as a bonus point.
So all of these functions, you know, and I think one of the cool things about AI is that all of these things that we're talking about really kind of highlight, when we talk about accountability, we're talking about people getting out of the keyboard, like getting behind the keyboard, stop sending your PowerPoint decks. And literally, like, it's the big agents, I wouldn't say the big agencies. I think there's a commonality where everything turned into some sort of corporate bullshit, like, is the best way I can describe it, right? Like, it's like fan fiction of the corporate world. Like, what are you doing? Look at my PowerPoint presentation. You know what I mean? Like, how what did we do last year? Look at my PowerPoint. It's just fan fiction. Like, you're writing a fan novel about your company without actually executing anything. And I think I'm going to consolidate these two bullet points here. Sorry, I'm messing up your reverse order, but at the same time, like, this is why big agencies thrive. And now what you're seeing is big agencies aren't thriving as much. They're cost reducing, you know, they're reducing headcount. Why is that? Because a lot of this, like, corporate fan fiction that we've been, you know, I wouldn't say we've been, but like, has been written, that you've been presenting, no one's buying that bullshit anymore.
Yeah. So the number 3 thing that I will stand on is something that I mentioned already, which is, you got to stop talking about things and get them into market and let your market decide what does and does not work. So we've had this conversation a zillion times, but it's like, the size and color of your button does not fucking matter unless it actually has statistical significance in the conversion with your audience. Like, what you think does not matter. What your CFO thinks will work in marketing does not matter. What your CEO thinks will work in marketing does not matter. You have to get things into market. And what I see consistently across our clients is, for sure, there is a paralysis analysis that occurs. An analysis paralysis. I like it. A paralysis by analysis. Whatever. It absolutely occurs where people are scared to fail. And I think you don't know if you're going to win or lose if you don't get the market's feedback on something. And so you have to sometimes move fast. And I would say that the majority of B2B companies do not have the sort of reach or attention yet in the market that anybody's even going to fucking see it, for the most part. Like, you need to be experimenting. You need to be out there getting shit into market, because everything that you're doing behind the scenes to fix that template, your audience doesn't fucking care about your, like, send a plain email text. Like, send a text only email, literally. Like, nobody cares about your fucking banner. Get it done.
Honestly,
get it into the audience.
That has proved to be a better open rate, just because there's so much totally. Conversation of that type of focus that people are, you know, it's just fatigue. Like, people have, you know, forgotten about it. And, you know, one of the things that you mentioned is, like, test it into the market. And this is and I'm going to tie in your 4 Ps. Kind of part of this is that stop promoting shit until you've tested it. You know what I mean? Like, I think so many companies are, you know, we've tested, and we're going to get to that part of it. Like, how did, you know, we talked about like we are actually implementing, like we're marketers, we do this stuff, and I'll show you, or we'll talk about how we did this at GNW. We don't promote stuff until it's already been tested. And I think a lot of companies, when they go through this like corporate fan fiction or the structure is like, hey, we think this is gonna work. Cool, let's put X amount of money fucking behind it. And it fails completely miserably. Test it in the market. You know how much stuff that you guys have probably not even known about that we've tested and we've changed and modified up until the point it's refined to a point. Then, Andrew's like, okay, now let's promote it. Like, let's promote this version or iteration of it, not just the first iteration. We've tried to sell, a handful of products and it didn't work. And we're like, all right, cool. We're not going to sell these anymore. Which ones did work? Now we have promotion behind it. And I think people are so like trigger happy of like, they think, oh, this is totally going to work, dude. Like, this is going to work. We're going to make $1 bajillion. We're going to test it, and crickets. And then, but you've invested so much money into it. Now you're kind of almost like forced to keep up with this, like, I guess, facade of something that works or not works.
I think one of the biggest culprits there is the content calendar, right? People spend a tremendous amount of time plotting out all of their content for the whole quarter. And like, it's just not agile enough, right? Like if you want to schedule every social post for the next quarter, like that is not social. Like social media is, you're supposed to be social. You're supposed to be joining conversations. You're supposed to be facilitating conversations. You're supposed to be actively involved in the community. What does the community care about this week, next week? Like when something politically big happens and it's like, hey, nobody posts this day. Like your content calendar is a problem for things like that. Like there is a equilibrium that must be had between scale and like the basic fundamentals of marketing that still exist. And you need to be agile enough in whatever you're doing to make sure that you're reporting, listening to the market, to the results that you're getting, and doubling down on the things that are working and avoiding the things that aren't. And I think that even in our little marketing ecosystem, we do a lot of that.
Someone decided that you need a content calendar because you need to be social and you need to be on Facebook. You need to post 3 times a week. You need to do this. You need to do that. Some of the content that is the most engaging is content that is relevant. And that doesn't mean that was pre-planned 2-3 weeks ago. But all of the stuff that you just talked about is because someone decided that this is what corporations are doing. Yeah. And now we should also follow this exact trend, and we should just post stuff for the quarter, and we have a nice little presentation that says, look at all of our social engagements. Yeah. We got 5,000 likes. We got 30,000 likes. We're up 25,000 likes. Like someone decided that this was the corporate model that was going to resonate, and it's changed so much far beyond that in the last 2 years with GPT, and even prior to that in like 3 years, in the last 5 years. It's changed so dramatically that if your content is pre-planned for a quarter, unless you're a big enterprise, it doesn't really matter. Like Coke doesn't need to sell Coke.
Yeah. And yet they still buy advertising.
Yeah.
So let that be a lesson to you. But what I was going to say is that even we do marketing when we have time. It is in addition to our regular day jobs.
Yeah.
And even us, like I can tell you last quarter how many views we got on YouTube videos and the average amount of time they spent that were referred by ChatGPT. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the number of people who can do that there are not a lot of marketing teams, even if you are a campaign manager that is in charge of YouTube, that probably knows that and can say, here are the things that we are doing differently in those videos that we need to then replicate in the videos going forward so that we can get more of that traffic. Yeah. Because it's the stats around that are absolutely incredible. For us in particular, we are a very, very small niche agency. So the idea that we have gotten 42 people to our YouTube from the videos that we do and call it RevOps, like that, those people have no other way of seeing us. And that's just actual traffic. And they stay on our videos for, on average, 1 minute and 30 seconds more than our next highest viewers, which those people came from our subscribed email list. So like strangers who have no idea who we are staying on our videos longer when ChatGPT suggests them. And that's only just the traffic that actually hits YouTube. So just imagine, because the click-through traffic on, nobody knows exactly what it is, but like on average, click-through traffic is dog shit. So it's like maybe 1%. So if you think about like 42 views, 1% of those have clicked through. The rest of them still have impressions on our stuff. So maybe 400-ish people have like seen or heard about us because of this whole podcast, promoted on you and like publish it on YouTube, all of those things that we're doing for this
with like no
show.
paid behind it too. Like that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Even though like everything that you said was like the bullet point number 1, but you know what? Just we're gonna go with bullet point 1, and I'm gonna go back to bullet point 2.
Okay, that sounds good.
But
so bullet point 1 is marketing credibility dies when ownership is optional, which I think is it's about perfecting and having a level of passion for optimizing the thing that you own in that moment. So like for campaign managers, I think it's absolutely fucking crazy that they don't know all of those stats. Like you gotta know your shit.
You have to own it. Like that's the problem. You have to own it.
And then at the department level, you have to own the success of the organization fundamentally. Like you have to own the fact that you need to get awareness out into the market about what you do. You need to own price. You need to own placement. You need to own the promotion, obviously. And so that's like our big takeaway that we always stand on is like
you can't just
marketing.
own the fun parts. You know what I mean? Like events are fun when you go there, maybe planning. Like you have to own all those aspects to it. And that kind of goes, and all of this kind of ties into like my favorite bullet point that it summarized is like, if you don't run it, shut the fuck up about it. I mean, or I'm sorry, shut up, shut up about it. But I mean, either way, it's very hard. Like everyone in the age of technology and marketing, it's kind of like when I did graphic design back in my days of Arizona State University, was like everyone was a designer. Everyone didn't like the color. Everyone did let's forget that there was color theory involved in some of the stuff that I designed, guys. Like, but everyone had an impression to leave about it, right? And now it's very hard to say, let's do something with AI, figure it out, and then try to execute it, implement it. But once again, if you don't know about anything about it, shut up about it. it's becoming very apparent. You know, who knows what they're talking about? Who knows what they're not talking about? So if you play the idea of like, I am also a subject matter expert and I'm going to talk about this. Yeah. You better bring some shit to the table. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if not, like, you're going to get called out really, really fast. Yeah. Maybe if you're not in a corporate environment. But
yeah. All right. So that took more time than we were anticipating, I'd say. We said we were going to be real succinct this episode, and then we're not.
All of these things are true. Like, we've talked about them over and over again. When, you know, people say, oh, you guys are very passionate, or I like it when you guys argue. But I mean, we're on the same page like a good amount of the time, just FYI. But these are all, they're all truth, right? And one of the things now we're going to get into, because this took a little bit longer, is like, we aren't just talking about these. We've also done these at GNW. And so we'll recap like what? We'll recap season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4.
Sure.
Let's go into it. All right. You want to take season 1 or?
Yeah. Right. So season 1, the audio's terrible. I'm going to be totally honest with you. If you go,
it's pretty bad.
If you go listen to it, it's, listen, this is what we mean when we say that we experiment. We figure out what works, what doesn't, and we do more of what works. Yeah. But the actual content of those videos is still spot on. So we talked about the strategy dilemma and the fact that like nobody knows what strategy means. Yep. And there's a big difference between capital S strategy and lowercase s strategy, where it's like, hey, maybe our product sucks, capital S strategy, right? Like, or like maybe the headwinds that are happening in our category are like insurmountable and we need to pivot massively, like, and fast, or we're not going to be a company in 5 years, right? Like that's a capital S strategy versus something like how we're going to manage leads is like a lowercase s strategy. Like it's still strategic, but very, very different. So I think one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is especially that like lower S strategy. Like we're not going to tell you your business is going to die in 5 years. Like we're not those strategists, but for sure we are the ones that come in and say like, that ain't going to work.
Yeah. And a lot of this, even like I know we kind of like pick on big agencies a lot. It seems like
we do because they don't add any value.
Yeah,
and they cost too much.
But everything that we say is, I wouldn't say everything. Okay, I would say majority of the stuff you can find is backed by data. If you look at all the changes that are going on at big agencies, the reason that they have salary freezes, the reason there is turnover, the reason they're doing mass amounts of layoffs is because of that. Because there was a component at a time where strategy was all of this shock and awe. You're going to, the company's going to go down. Oh, we got to invest. Then it didn't return anything because you can't execute anything. And big agencies always thrive when you ghost execution because they're going to talk about the plan, but no one's going to deliver on it. Yeah. And that's really what we talked about, in season 1 is like the strategy dilemma. ABM was one of those components as well. Yeah. Huge push. I can't even fathom how much money that people invested. Softwares were produced because of this ABM strategy. To Andrea's initial point, something that's been happening for quite a little bit of while, right? And it's those type of things I think that when we talked about in season 1, even though the audio wasn't good, is still happening. Right? Yeah. Like the new one is ABX, AI-based marketing or some shit like that. I don't know. Like it's the exact same thing. They're talking about your top 10 versus one to many and one to few, but how AI can help. Even though there's platforms that could have helped, and even though that there's CRMs that could have helped, like there's always something that will help. Yeah. But it doesn't really produce any results.
Yeah. Let's go to season 2.
Yeah. So this one, I wouldn't say we learned a lot of stuff about it. I think the diner, right? This was the diner. So this was the diner setup and it was really nice. And, we got the audio fixed up and all of that good stuff. And, what we really talked about was the art of the bullshit. Like this is the next evolution.
The art of the possible.
Well, we talked about the art of the possible, AKA the art of the bullshit. Yeah. Right. Is because that's what's promised. They promise you this grandiose vision of things that will never come true. You spend X amount of budget, and then guess what happens to marketing teams after that? You're fucked. You don't get any more budget because you've lost all credibility because you've invested in a strategy that's cost so much money with absolutely no return.
We also talked about budgeting.
It's just don't invest all your budget into a PowerPoint presentation. That's not going to return anything. I mean, that's really what the crux of that show was, that episode, was that your budget is it's sacred, right? Like marketing doesn't get a lot of budget. First of all, we have to prove every step of why we need money. What is it going to use for? What is the return on investment? Like marketing is always under the gun of proving the value of something as simple as an email marketing automation platform. So like when you budget, it's sacred. So don't spend your budget on something that is kind of, I don't know, a little bit of bullshit.
Okay. And then this feels out of left field, but we did talk about, it's one of our more popular videos where we talk about building a career in marketing operations. And we get in the Wayback Machine and talk about growing up in marketing operations and how it used to be for us. And one of my favorite tips from that episode is the idea of making sure that wherever you go and invest as a career, that they are as invested in your growth as you are, right? Like go work for people who give a fuck about you learning and growing. And I think especially in the age of AI, this has become even more important because the people who are going to have jobs in marketing in the next 5-ish years are going to be people who have experimented with and created dope shit with AI at this point, because there is still a huge chasm between people who are doing shit, experimenting and figuring it out, and people who are like, I don't know, nobody's asked me to do a project with it yet. So I'd really like to learn more. Like you gotta start doing it or you're gonna get left behind.
I mean, I can't wait for the resumes that says, do you know AI? And you're like, oh yeah, I do know AI. And you get in, you get walk your way through the interview, jump in, and the most experience you have is like prompt design.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, and they're gonna be like, hey, take Claude and N8N, and then I go and just build this agent. And you're gonna be like, let me chat GPT. How do I use Claude? Those are not going to be fun times.
All right, season 3. So this is where I know you said it sounds like we shit on big agencies a lot, but that's because we have a whole episode we talked about breaking up with your big agency and how much better niche.
But I want to point out that when we recorded the very first episode that literally talked about breaking up with your big agency, the reason that even got on paper and the reason we recorded it is because we had at least minimum of 5 clients that had been burned by it. When people start requesting to talk to the resources that are going to be on the account, that they've been burned. They got bait and switched. Someone went in and said, we're going to do all this thing. And they're like, we believe you. And then they put someone, with a 4-year degree with GPT at its infancy trying to run that account. And that's what I think led to us being like, all right, we got to talk about this.
So to me, it was obvious that like all of these high-level strategists are going to be in a world of pain in the age of AI, when AI can create that strategy for you and like do all of that market research that you're charging $500,000 to do. Like it's not good times for them.
And I think when we recorded this episode, we kind of saw it coming because we saw these clients, but also I do feel bad for the people because it goes back to the how to build your career. And when we talk about building a career, we talk about fundamentally learning something new. And a lot of the reason this type of stuff happens at bigger agencies is because they take a template, they carbon copy it, and they say, this is what you need to do. And that worked. That worked for a good portion of their life. Yeah. You literally could train people right out of college to clone a presentation, present it, and they have a talk track. When that talk track breaks and you need to think about it, that's why all of these things are now kind of coming to part. And I think you asked the question earlier, is like, do you like what like AI or that question regarding like AI? I think that's what AI is like kind of, bubbling up to the surface is like those inconsistencies of people that know their shit versus people that are just kind of sitting and regurgitating whatever, kind of like what are they, call centers? What are they calling my call centers? Like a
well, you said it, a call script?
Yeah, a script. Yeah, script. So.
Okay, and then we threw this one in there in season 3, which is revenue is killing marketing.
Yeah.
So
that was a fun one.
We speak out of both sides of our mouths, just occasionally, where marketing should be accountable.
But there's context behind it.
But we do believe marketing should be accountable to revenue. However, marketing also is a creative discipline. The best ideas that are most commonly the most effective are actually the most creative and outside the box, and maybe the ones that you can't actually directly tie back to revenue, but there are leading and lagging indicators, like even this whole thing that we're doing in my previous mention about how much it's showing up on ChatGPT. Like I wouldn't have committed to that. I wouldn't have been like, hey, we're gonna get at least 20 referrals from ChatGPT to our YouTube videos in Q3 of 2025.
And honestly,
I wouldn't have committed to it, but like we know it happened now, and we can say fundamentally, I think this is the kind of content that our audience will like and enjoy. We don't see anything on the market like it today. Let's take a gamble. And that I think is what we're trying to say, in that like revenue is kind of killing marketing because
you're trying to tie too much stuff, right? It's like trying to tie a handshake or a conversation. Even if we talk about like the podcast, or I think you mentioned earlier, like the ChatGPT sourcing kind of OFM viewers and how long they're spending on the page. All of that is really good engagement metrics. We know the engagement metrics. Now, can we go down the rabbit hole and see how many people that watched it, that we got a deal out of it, or it influenced the deal, or we did all like, could we? Yes. Should we? No. Because it's kind of like you're trying to prove something that inherently is leading to visibility of a company or our company very particularly, but how deep down the rabbit hole are you going to say it's tied to $1,000 of this opportunity?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing about it, is that when you hyper focus on things and you try to attribute everything to everything that you're doing, you're going to fail at it.
Yeah.
And I think the amount of time, and once again, it's like, if you have budget and you're a big corporation and that's what you want to do, by all means do it. A lot of the clients that we work with really have, they have to be mindful of their budget. They have to make sure like the things that they're doing are producing results. And if we told you after you paying us X amount of money that 1,000 to, I don't know, 50,000, 1 to 5% of your, revenue should be attributed to a podcast that you're doing. Like, is that helpful? Like, are you going to all of a sudden amp up your podcast?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's a balance. And I think that's what really that episode was talking about, is that when we hyper focus on attributing everything to revenue, you're going to waste more money in doing that.
Yeah. Totally. We already talked about my diatribe on the 4 Ps a bunch, so I think we can skip that one. So let's talk about season 4.
The most recent one.
The most recent episodes. So we talked about how CMO is the worst job in the C-suite. I do have a recent different take on this in the age of AI. I think AI is the CMO's opportunity to get more credibility back. Because I do think that a lot of people still see AI as like content creation.
I think a lot of people just see AI as prompting.
Right. But like, I like to write a blog or whatever, to like write a social post, to do all of these things. And I think that, because it started, like marketing and engineering were kind of the first 2 departments where it's really hit a lot of our end users hard. Like, there aren't a lot of marketers that I talk to anymore who aren't doing anything. Like, a lot of them are using it for writing.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's an opportunity that CMOs have here to lead out on AI innovation and get everyone in the organization rallied around how to leverage AI in way, way smarter ways, like how to actually use agents. And I think that our marketing tech stack, there is a lot of AI getting brought into features on a lot of the big tools like Salesforce and Salesforce and Adobe and HubSpot. Like, these are tools that are like really on the bleeding edge of this. Like,
that was more to highlight, as marketers, you shouldn't be doing that, right? Like, these are the functions that are native, that you're going to see like a good amount of process-driven change. But to your point, like, marketers and CMOs, you don't get into like the rabbit hole of saying these components, like it's not so much the departments, but like those functions, you shouldn't be replacing those functions.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of tools outside that are saying, hey, you know what, we can go ahead and build a tool and it'll build an email for you, or it'll do this, it'll bring up the campaign doc and it'll do all of those items. Like, you shouldn't be focusing on those, because those are just going to come naturally. People are going to invest in it. But to your point, what are the fundamental changes at an organization that need to be made in order to have the organization actually grow? That's where the focus should be. You shouldn't be focusing on building like, a list upload agent. Like, if you're a CMO at a company and you're like, hey, I can, save ourselves, like that's, I don't feel like that's the function that you're going to like try to replace AI with.
Yeah, you can totally rethink. So like, one of the big areas that I've been talking to a lot of people about is the future of CRM, right? Like, I think that CRM as a category has always been wrought with conflict, because you're taking people that are in a discipline, sales, who are mostly relationship builders. They mostly want to be in front of people, talking to people, convincing them to buy things or think about things in a different way. If you want to do a consultative sale, blah, 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 blah. And you've made them administrators. You've asked them to go in and enter someone's job title. And it never was a great idea, because it's not really what they want to be doing, spending their time with. And they're not very good at it. It's why historically you always had an admin. A sales guy would come back with all of his fucking cards, give them to his admin, and his admin would enter it into the spreadsheet or whatever, so that they could track what happened.
That was my internship at Arizona State University.
Yeah. And then we had one of those at the Suns too. Like, that was her whole job. And like, and that was only in 2009 to 2011. And so like you used to have that scenario, and then SaaS made it so easy for sales reps to manage their own data, but like it never was a good idea. And now with AI, you can move back to a place where like they shouldn't have to, right? Like all they should have to do is facilitate the right kind of call, and then all of that data should just be automatically coming into CRM. You should be able to have an agent that creates a proposal, creates a quote, creates all of this stuff. There's no reason for a person
skim the emails. Remember the Outlook plugins and the email plugins that just caused more chaos because it just duplicated a bunch of shit because it was like an agent to create, to update sales stuff to sales items that are needed inside CRM. That's what you should be investing in.
Yeah, like, so that's what I mean when I say like I think the CMO could position themselves to be at the hub of like innovation like that.
Yes.
Like let's rethink like everything that we're doing here. So that's my only hope. Otherwise, I contend still that the job of the CMO is it sucks unless you can position yourself as like a true strategic business leader. It's a terrible job.
And we always like to throw in a little bit of curveballs in some of these seasons. Where like I think one of the ones was like marketing is like dating. We'll give you one guess. Whose idea was that one?
Well, what happens is, so we aren't drinking here right now, but the crux of that idea was that by the time we get to our third episode, we're not very coherent. And so I was like, let's not do anything serious for our third episode this time. And let's just have some fun with it. So that's how you got Why Marketing is Like Dating. Yeah. But
that's still a fun episode. I mean, it still talks about like what you need to do from a marketing perspective. And then we have the big AI episode in season 4 as well.
Which obviously we just talked to.
We've hammered down. So how did, one of the things at the very beginning we said, hey, like these are not the things that we talk about. Like these are things that we talk about, but we also do them, right? So how did we grow the business? How did we implement a lot of this stuff? And I'm going to randomly pick one of these.
Okay, that sounds good.
Because anytime we go in a linear or non-linear order, forward or backwards, it always fucking goes out of place anyway. Because we pick the ones that we like talking about. Sure. I'm going to pick the third bullet point because we grew the organization. And part of growing the organization is understanding that you have to invest in people. So at the very beginning, we were operators. Now, we've turned majority of them, into really good consultants. Because one of the things that we very, very fundamentally saw at the beginning of the year that we talked about is like, if strategy and all of these components are being taken over and all of these agencies are failing, you need to be able to think on your feet. And I think one of the things that we did was we turned them not from operators, but to think before answering the question. Because prior to that, it was, when you're doing a lot of like the day-to-day stuff, it's pretty normal. But now asking the question why you should do this.
All right. My favorite takeaway here of the things that we actually implemented are our AI stuff. We have a GPT for I don't know, almost everything, right? Like we have an onboarding GPT. We have GPTs for each one of our clients so we can keep track of who are the detractors in the account. What are the next big milestones we need to accomplish? Like we have GPTs for a ton of stuff that we've created. We've created gems in addition to GPTs, but gems aren't quite as good because you can't share them, blah, 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 blah. Like we've experimented and explored a ton about how AI can help our business. And then we have started selling GEO services. So this year I spent a lot of time just learning, experimenting with GEO, our own GEO to start with. And so now we're performing services there, which is
since we're acronym heavy, and I know these are new terms.
Good point.
Right? Because like that's one of the things I'll tell you about marketing agencies. Half our stuff is abbreviated in every Slack channel that we're in.
Yeah.
So, but if you're not familiar with what GEO, AIO, PPP, whatever, LLP, LLC is.
Yeah. GEO is generative engine optimization. So it's basically it's So it's essentially SEO, but for LLMs.
Yeah.
So how do you get placed in LLMs above your competitors? What kind of prompts are you placing for? All of that same stuff that you did with keyword research and alignment with SEO, you need to be doing it for GEO. There's lots of schools of thought on this. Some people think that you can't influence it all. I think given the work that we're doing, you can influence it. And there are some very straightforward formats that really help in that regard. So we're doing some really interesting work there, turning all of these ideas of what we think will work into actual execution with our clients. So that's super, super exciting. And then just even to facilitate GEO, we're creating agents. So we're getting a lot more into agent building and really just creating these mini and like one of the learnings if you start building agents is that if you want one agent to do even like a very simple thing like an email build, you realize you need an agent actually that's very good at writing subject lines. Yeah. And you need an agent that actually is very good at writing, CTA verbiage, and you need an agent that does this, and then you need an agent that strings all of those agents work together. So we're getting much better at creating agents that can do all of these little bite-sized pieces of work for us and then stringing them together to create one big agent that can accomplish what you normally would go to somebody and give them an hour task to do. So that's all super exciting, and we're building all of that. We build them within systems, so within Salesforce, within Adobe increasingly. However, we're also building them outside of any of the major platforms that we support. And that to me is a little bit more interesting because, again, that's that idea of almost going on-prem, right? Like you almost get your own little mini engineering team to create just kind of whatever the fuck you want. So that I'm amped. Like, I think we're doing super cool work around that, and it's just going to continue to blow up. And it's just exponential. Like once you start creating those agents, it's like, oh fuck, why don't we have an agent for that? Yeah. Oh fuck, why don't we have an agent for that? So I'm amped. I think that's going to be
one of the cool things about that, amazing. And one of the just learnings about it, and the cool part about owning an agency and running an agency and like being hands-on is like you learn these things. I thought very initially, and I think most people were like, well, we'll have an agent that does all of the stuff. And then once you realize is that no, there's an agent that piggybacks off another agent. So it's almost like roles inside building an agent. Like one component of the agent is another agent that has a role because you have to train that one to do it really, really good. Mm-hmm. And then you consolidate all those together.
Yeah.
The other one is that marketing owns all of the 4 Ps at GNW. We've talked about it throughout this entire year, even this podcast. So I, as the owner of the company, still have to answer to the lead marketing, chief marketing officer, strategy officer, whatever you want to call it yourself, is because if I want to sell, I'm going to sell AI. The first thing that I get, a little bit combative with, I get combative with, like I don't, like she asked me, is like, well, okay, who are you going to pricing it? What are we going to do? Where are we going to place it? How are we going to promote it? What are all this? So marketing owns all the 4 Ps, and that's worked out even in a kind of like a checks and balances system. Is like the CEO will raise his hands. I want to invest in an agent that does this. First question, why? Why are we going to promote it? Who are we going to promote it to? Who's going to buy it? What's the price point you're selling it for? You know what, Andrea? Let me go back to the table. I want to just go ahead and
create me a business case,
refine some of these things. But yeah, marketing owns 4 Ps of marketing. So
yeah,
and we helped a lot of people break up with their big agencies.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so
we did help a lot of people, and we're going to continue doing it. I'm sorry, but we do better work.
Yeah, and I think the absolute last thing is navigating budget. So this conversation that we've been brought into internally as well. So when we talk about budgeting for anything that we do, like the GEO piece, a lot of our current customers are like, oh, I didn't know that you did that. Good. you shouldn't at this moment in time, right? Because in order to budget for the promotion of GEO services, there's use cases that we've developed. That's what she's doing. That's what we're doing. That is what we're developing, the use cases, and now we have enough data. So in 2026, now we can promote it. We have a better pricing idea. We have a better, placement. Like, how are we going to do all of these things? Who is going to do it? All of those things every time we presented, I think to a few of our current clients, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you did any of that stuff." Yeah, because we haven't promoted it yet. We haven't pushed that promotion lever full, hit the button, whatever it is. Like, we haven't pulled it all the way down. The reason being is because we were in a case of what we've talked about in every single one of our episodes: test the fucking market before you do anything. And that's exactly why, if you haven't heard about it, is because we didn't kind of pull that lever or hit the button yet.
Well, and I also think that the other big thing that I would note is we have a budget too. You know what I mean? Like, we are a small but mighty team. And so we have to be really cognizant of where we put our resources, how much we invest before we call an experiment failed. Or double down on it. And so we are in the same position as all of our customers, where we don't have an endless budget. It comes out of our profit. So, and
even less, actually. I would say even less of a budget than we realistically have. One of the caveats, though, just complete, being transparent here. A lot of people like building shit here. Like, that's where our budget. Yes, we don't have a enormous budget for marketing, but also a lot of the people that make G&W the agency that it is, and the reason that we do really good work is because everyone's inquisitive about, hey, can I fucking do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where, if we didn't have that type of mentality just generally across the board, top level down, I feel like our budget would probably have to be a lot higher, because we would have to invest in it. So, things to kind of know as well is, like, when you have people that are generally more inquisitive and like to learn and and I think the reason the clients trust us is because they're like, oh, you guys actually like what you're doing. You enjoy learning about it. In essence, in history, people who like that stuff will generally do better at it instead of someone that's being forced to fucking do it.
All right. Well, what are our final takeaways for viewers of this?
Are we going to just randomize this too? We could just randomize this, right? Own the fundamentals. You have to own the outcomes. If you're in marketing and you're a marketing agency bigger than us, so please, continue to do what you're doing. But if you're not, outcomes are what's going to derive results, not a PowerPoint presentation deck.
Yeah.
I keep saying PowerPoint presentation deck because,
Well, it's very thorough.
Yeah.
And if anyone takes one thing away, it's like, maybe talk less and do more.
Yeah. AI is going to help you scale the strategy, but you still have to execute. I feel like my biggest takeaway in every single one of these bullet points is, like, if you're going to invest in something, make sure you invest in the execution of it just as much as the strategy behind it.
Yeah. And like, my last takeaway is, small scrappy agencies that get shit done are the shit.
Yeah.
So you should come work with us.
Yeah. I mean, that's, a blatant sell.
If you feel the same way.
Yeah. That's it. I think that's it.
Well,
you can turn your lights off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the Undertaker.
Well, 2025 was a great year. Lots of innovation, lots of growth. It was super fun. While a lot of our competitors got smaller, we didn't. So we're doing something right.
That's not targeted to anyone. Please do not.
No one in particular.
Please do not blow up our direct messages or put in some sort of Slack channels.
I mean, you can take a guess if you want who we might be talking about. But
she's poking the bear. Trust me, she's not talking about anyone.
It's been a super fun year. Yeah. Thanks for hiring me. And here's to 2026. Yeah. Virtual cheers.